good morning, Tampa Bay. It is a kind of dark, gloomy morning, kind of chilly. It's been really cold the last couple of days. I ran into somebody in the elevator here at the building. They're like, man, I just moved to Florida. This is not what I expected for winter. And I said, been here a long time. And this is the worst it's ever been. It usually lasts about a day. Then it gets back to warmth. It's been like a week long. Now, I just moved from St. Pete to Clearwater. I'm like, maybe I just moved north and it got colder. But I think it's cold all over. It's Nick Wise live on a Saturday. It's the brand new Nick Wise show. I guess it's kind of an old show. Then it went to the Wise and Mathis show. Now it's back to the Nick Wise show. So an old but new show. And the reason for the change is I wanted to have more local programming for you guys to enjoy on a Saturday when you're driving around, getting things done. Maybe the wife's making you run to Home Depot and you want to hear, conversations about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I thought this was a way to make that happen. I will miss having Chris Mathis on the show. But Chris Mathis hasn't gone anywhere. Chris Mathis is actually coming up next. Him and Casey Warner from the Pat and Aaron Show have started their own show, Chris and Casey, and that's going to be at 11 o'clock today. And that's going to run until 1 o'clock. And then after that, you got Rock Riley, who's going to be on. I know everybody loves Rock Riley. He'll take you inside the Bucs locker room. Nobody more connected to the Buccaneers on the radio station than Rock Riley. So I'm excited to listen to him this afternoon as I fulfill my wife's list. I told you, we just moved. So my list is very long, including unpacking and getting out of boxes. And on top of that, after Rock Riley at 1 o'clock, or actually 2 o'clock this afternoon, Aaron Jacobson lost a bet on the Army-Navy game. I said, hey, Aaron, I'll take Navy in the 5.5 points, and I'll give you a free vacation day if you win. If you lose, you have to do Saturdays for a month. Then he got COVID, so he's going to do Saturday for the next month, plus one in February. And that's a lot of local programming. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited for me. We got a lot of conversations to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today. Those conversations will be had. But I want to get, if you know me and you listen to me, you know that I love college football. And I want to get the college football segment out of the way. As our audience wakes up, I know the masses want to hear more about the Bucs. And I got plenty of Bucs topics for you this morning. But while everybody wakes up, and a majority of our audience seems to arrive right around 9:30, I figured, let's get the college football conversation out of the way now, because it's not just a blow-off conversation. It's something I really do want to talk about. I just know the mass audience would prefer to hear about the Bucs, right? Despite you probably wanting to hear about both, I would think. If you're listening to this radio station, you're a sports fan, you probably watched the Cotton Bowl last night. Probably not as angry about it as I am, because this national championship game is literally my worst nightmare, guys. The last thing I wanted was Ohio State and Notre Dame. Now, I will say this. Marcus Freeman, unless you're a Notre Dame fan, you probably don't like Notre Dame, right? You normally hate the other Blue Bloods, the other big programs, especially when you got some big programs right here in the state, whether you're a Gators fan or you're a Seminoles fan. If you're a Seminoles fan, you're not rooting for the Gators. If you're a Gators fan, you're not rooting for the Seminoles. You're not rooting for Bama. You're not rooting for Georgia. You don't want your rivals in it. You don't want the other big programs to do better than you. And here we are. We got two of the biggest blue bloods in the sport. They're going to play each other. And to me, I know Notre Dame's God's team, but they're still the devil to me. So it's the devil versus the devil. But really, it's the devil versus God. It's going to have tremendous ratings. I think the college football hit a home run. This is exactly what they wanted. They got two massive programs. But for me, Ohio State's the last team I want to win. Notre Dame, though, I will say this. Notre Dame I don't hate as much as I used to. Marcus Freeman has made Notre Dame kind of likable. Would you agree? Because Brian Kelly was so easy to hate, right? Brian Kelly just had this face that you want to punch it, right? And then, the way he left Notre Dame to go down to LSU with his family. He leaves Notre Dame because he feels like he can't win a championship there. Goes to LSU because in the South, the SEC schools, they get the better recruits. They do better, in the college football playoff. They win championships. And the SEC is just dominant in the sport. So he felt going south would be better for him. And now his worst nightmare has come true. Notre Dame is going to play in the national championship game. I'd love to know who he's rooting for. He'll tell you probably on the surface he's rooting for Notre Dame, but there's no way. There's no way that he's rooting for Notre Dame. There's no way. Like, I know I wouldn't. Like, if I were to leave here, hope the station burns to the ground. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? Like, if you leave your job, if you leave it the way you did and then it does better without you, you're not rooting for it to do better without you. So that's going to be an uncomfortable one for Brian Kelly. Ohio State, they beat Texas last night. Let's talk about the play of that game. And that was the goal line toss. What are we doing? This isn't Madden. You don't have Bucky Irving in the backfield. You don't have Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. You don't have a Bijan Robinson in the background. You don't have a Saquon Barkley in the backfield. You got a freshman running back, and you do a toss play on the best goal line defense in college football? Sark, what are you doing? I'm not a head football coach, but I could tell you the play that I would have ran there. I would have run one very similar to the one they ran on fourth down, which, by the way, was a great play by Texas. They brought Arch Manning in, the only play he had of the day. They had the tight end come in motion, get under center, made it look like the tight end was going to sneak it, snapped it through his legs to Arch. Arch runs it for a first down. You didn't have to do the tight end under center thing again, but to not run the ball with Arch on 1st and 1 from the goal line, I would have done that play 4 times, get the extra blocker, run with the quarterback, and Sark didn't do it. I mean, Sark might be the most loyal guy ever because Quinn Ewers really held Texas back. I mean, and overall, Quinn Ewers throughout his career has been all right. He hasn't been bad. He's brought Texas back, which we've heard so often. I think it was Sam Ellinger a couple years ago. It was like, Texas is back, and then they fell apart again. But they've been really good with Quinn Ewers. Been to the semifinals 2 years in a row. Just can't get over that hump, and Quinn Ewers was bad yesterday. And I caught a conversation. It was on the end of the broadcast. Quinn Ewers was having a conversation with Ohio State. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back there because he's not going to be the quarterback at Texas next year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ohio State. I could see Quinn Ewers at Notre Dame. Oregon doesn't really like to develop quarterbacks. They usually use the transfer portal. But Quinn Ewers is definitely done at Texas, and that was definitely not his best performance. I can't get over the goal line play, Sark. What are you doing, man? All of it was so bad. Run it with Arch. Run it with the quarterback. 1st and goal from the 1-yard line. Not to mention it was 1st and goal from the 2. Pass interference. 1st and goal from the 1. So really they had, 5 or 6 opportunities to score, and the Ohio State defense couldn't do it. College football is weird, man. Texas destroyed Michigan in Ann Arbor. And then the Wolverines, I think they go into the game, 6-6? Something like that. Yeah, I think it was 6-6. They go into Columbus, and they win? So weird. As a 3 touchdown underdog. You know, it's interesting how all that works. So, has the college football playoff format been everything that you had hoped for? You know, the 12-team playoff. I know we complained at first. We didn't love it. The opening round, kind of a whiff. There are a lot of blowouts. All of the favorites covered. Covered big, too. Then you get to the next round, Texas, Arizona State. I finally said, you know what? I'm done laying the points. I'm going to take Texas to cover, and they don't. I was a curse in the college football playoff. But was it everything that you wanted it to be? You know, it took so much really criticism in the beginning, but at the end, it kind of all worked out. And when you got to the Final Four, because even in previous years, the Final Four has had many blowouts. So many. But that didn't happen this year. Notre Dame, Penn State, great, fantastic game. Last night's game, it always felt like Ohio State was going to win, but Texas kind of crawled back in there and, you know, probably made Ohio State fans nervous. I think for the rest of us who didn't have a horse in the race, probably you never really felt Texas was going to win the game, but it was close. It was competitive. And that I appreciate because we haven't always had that. You know, I think of the LSU-Oklahoma game. I think of the Georgia-TCU game. a lot of the semifinal games have been blowouts. And this year we had 2 good semifinal games. I don't have the list of the college football playoff games in front of me, but I would say this was probably the most competitive year when it got down to the Final Four. People complain a lot about the the college football playoff system too, and don't get me wrong, they got a lot of things they got to work out. I think reseeding would have been nice. I think Oregon's path being the number 1 team, and it's like, hey, you're number 1. Congratulations. Here's Ohio State, the probably most talented roster in all of college football. Meanwhile, Penn State loses the Big Ten, and they're playing Boise State and SMU. So those things they have to work out. Other than that, though, we got more football. I'm cool with it. Even if the first round was blowouts, I'm down with more football. At the end of the day, you got teams in there that are really good. You got blue bloods. It's going to be a very, very highly watched football game next Monday night. Listen to as well. You can hear it right here on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. You're listening to the Nick Weiss Show right now. I appreciate you checking us out this morning. But, people often complain about the college football playoff, but nobody ever complains about the NFL playoff, which I always find funny because, don't get me wrong, the college football playoff, very flawed. But the NFL this weekend, and it's worked out to our favor here in Tampa Bay, so I'm not upset about it. But, there's 3 teams with less wins than their opponent that are hosting games this weekend. Like I said, one of them, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The other is the Texans. They are underdogs this afternoon against the LA Chargers. A little interested in that matchup. CJ Stroud going against Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh's gotten the better of them on the college level. We'll see what happens today now that they're in the NFL. And then the Rams are hosting a 14-win Minnesota Vikings team. Now, technically not hosting because the game's been moved to State Farm Stadium, which I know a lot of people are upset with due to the fires in L.A. I guess State Farm dropped a lot of policies, and now they're getting the game. Just kind of weird how that works. We live in a simulation, folks. We really do. But at the end of the day, you got 2 good teams. It all worked itself out. And I was really thinking about this. Is the 12-team or the 4-team format tougher to win a championship in? 888-546-4620 is the phone number. I'd like to talk about this a little bit because I think I feel differently than most people. Oh, you've always heard, the duration of the playoffs was this is the hardest one to win. I don't know, is it? I think the 12-team playoff is actually easier to win a championship in than the 4-team playoff. Hear me out. See, the 4-team playoff, Ohio State and Notre Dame probably aren't in it. They're not winning a championship. As the old college football fans say, back in my day, you had to beat your rival. You had to win your conference and a chance to win a championship. Ohio State did not beat their rival, did not win their conference, didn't even play in the conference championship game. Here they are playing for a national championship. So to me, I think the 4-team format was much tougher because you were not allowed to have any errors. You were allowed to have one, right? You could have one error throughout the season, and that was it. You were done after that. So I think that the 4-team playoff is definitely harder to win a championship. Now, once the playoff starts, don't get me wrong, the 12-team is harder because you could have to play like Ohio State. What are they going to play, 4 games in this tournament? I don't want to take anything away from that. But if it was the 4-team playoff, Ohio State's not in this thing. Notre Dame, maybe. I don't know if the playoff committee would have got over the Northern Illinois loss in a 4-team playoff. It would have been interesting. It is the Nick Weiss Show live on a Saturday. It's 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. Thank you so much for having us on. I know a lot of people want to talk about the Bucs. I wanted to get that out about the college football stuff. I'll continue having the conversation if you want to talk college football. I also got a question for Bucs fans. All right, we're going to get into that next on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. From the Cool Today Weather Center, cooltoday.com. Nick Wise on Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Welcome in on a Saturday. For those of you just joining us, it is the brand new Nick Wise Show. We're talking a little college football. Ohio State beats Texas last night. And the national championship stage is set. Notre Dame, Ohio State. My worst nightmare. It has arrived. Not a fan of it at all. But I'll be watching. I'll be hate watching. Hoping that somehow they can tie. We were also discussing, which format is easier to win. A national championship. Is it the 12-team playoff or the 4-team playoff? I think when you first hear the question, you instantly go, the 12-team, duh, you got to play, Ohio State's going to play 4 games. You got to win more times. That is true. But you also are allowed to have a couple stumbles along the way to your way to a championship where before you really had one error, and that was it. After you had one mistake, you were done. And now you don't have to beat your rival. You don't have to win your conference. You don't even got to play in your conference championship game. Neither of these teams played in the conference championship game. Notre Dame, obviously, they're independent. But Ohio State, remember, they didn't play in the Big Ten championship. After they lost to Michigan, it went to Penn State. But you're now allowed to make mistakes, get into the playoffs. So I still think the 4-team's tougher. Now, once the actual playoffs start, of course, the 12 is harder. You got to go through so many more different teams to get there. But getting there is a little bit more simplified now. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. I know the audience is starting to wake up on a Saturday. The Bucs fans are waking up on a Saturday morning knowing that we are I'm not good at math. 36 hours away from game time. 35. If I'm wrong, don't text in calling me an idiot. Was never good at math. I don't need to be told I'm an idiot. It's only 9:20 this morning. I don't need it. Not yet. But I know I'm stupid. Why do so many people want Todd Bowles fired? That's who I want to talk to this morning. I really want you to participate in this conversation. Remember, this is a solo show now. I don't have Chris Matheson here anymore. All right, I like having the opinions of the listeners on this show. And this is one that I'm going to need you to step up for because I feel differently. I want to talk to the Fire Todd Bowles crowd. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I really just want to understand you. I want to know why you feel this way. I don't want you to just say Todd Bowles needs to go. I want you to explain why Todd Bowles needs to go. 888-546-4620 because this team is about to host a playoff game for the 4th team in a row. 3rd time in a row under Todd Bowles. The guy's done nothing but win the NFC South. He hires elite offensive coordinators. That's not something that's easy to do. And I think Jason Licht gets all of that credit. But, guys, Todd Bowles gets... he's in those rooms and in those meetings and deserves the credit as well. Right? Nobody wanted to come to Tampa Bay when Dave Canales did. Nobody. Because Todd Bowles at the time was kind of on the hot seat. The Bucs had, they won the division, but they were under 500 in Tom Brady's final year. Nobody wanted to come here. You weren't getting the Todd Munkins. That was the hot name at the time. You weren't getting those guys. Because Todd Bowles was on the hot seat. Any offensive coordinator that came here wasn't going to have job security. And Todd Bowles, with the 11th choice, after everybody else turned it down, found Dave Canales. And Dave Canales did wonders with Baker Mayfield, leading him to his career best season. Till this year, which he even topped it. Which, again, relies on Todd Bowles because Dave Canales, a guy that nobody had ever heard of, had never even called plays, comes to Tampa Bay for a year. Offense does better. Run game still sucked. Baker Mayfield, though, revived, becomes a franchise quarterback, and Dave Canales gets a head coaching job after 1 year. Right? Todd Bowles gets that credit. he is the reason for that. He hires elite offensive coordinators. Liam Cohen, he might get a head coaching job this year. I'll tell you where I think he's going to go. We'll do coaching predictions this morning at 9:45. I do think he's going to get a job. I do think he's going to take it. I know there's a lot of, well, maybe he loves it here. And look, this is a great place. But if that man can get a head coaching job, I think he's going to take it. Now, I know that Ben Johnson in Detroit kind of been the anomaly, right? Everybody wants this guy, and he's like, I'm going to stay in Detroit and be an offensive coordinator. Not everybody's like that. Me personally, I think an offensive coordinator would be more fun than a head coach. Because when you're a coordinator, you just got to worry about football things. When you're a head coach, you got to worry about so much more. But Todd Bowles hires elite offensive coordinators, right? I know Jason Light has a lot to do with that too, but let's give Todd his credit. When his defense is healthy, Todd Bowles runs a very good defense. I love listening to radio around the country. I love, we're playing the Commanders. I like checking out Washington, D.C. radio. I'll check out Detroit, Dallas. I like to see what others are talking about. You know how many times this week, listening to stations around the country, I've heard people mention a Todd Bowles defense. See, we don't appreciate it. We don't respect it. Because at times it pisses us off. Totally get that. Totally fair. But around the country, people who don't have all their heart and soul into this team, they respect it. They see it. They credit the work Todd Bowles has done. And when his defense is healthy, guys, they're pretty good. Now, I know they've had their struggles this year. They haven't been healthy at all this year either. They're going to be pretty healthy this week, which is nice. And that should help them tremendously. And I think you're going to see a really good Todd Bowles defense come Sunday night. But I really want to hear, everybody just dropped off the phone lines. If I don't know what happened with the phones, 888-546-4620. I really want to hear from the Todd Bowles needs to be fired crowd. I want to understand you. I want to understand your line of thinking. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there's downsides to Todd Bowles. I'm not sitting here crowning him saying he's the next Bill Belichick. Nobody thinks that. He has won a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator, though. Remember, you won that Super Bowl against the Chiefs because of your defense. Patrick Mahomes ran for 500 yards east and west that day? They contained Michael Jordan. That's what I'll call Patrick Mahomes because he's great. That was Todd Bowles. But again, there are downsides. Clock management. What was he doing in the playoffs in Detroit last year? Why did he not use the final timeout? Those are the things I can't explain, right? But the bad things can't always weigh out all the good things either. Does the team start off slow every week? Yeah, they do. They have their issues. I don't put all of that just on Todd Bowles. So if you want Todd Bowles fired, want to know why, want to hear from you, 888-546-4620. I also would love to hear from you if you support Todd Bowles. I think that's a fair conversation to have as well. Because I think we're so mixed on he should be here, he should go away. I don't think nobody wants the same thing. It's kind of like politics. You're on this side or you're on that side. And I feel like it's the same with Todd Bowles. Same way with Brandon Lau, Jameis Winston. Todd Bowles is that new guy, right? Brandon Lau's kind of recovered himself. Jameis Winston, he was hit or miss. Some of you loved him. Some of you hated him. Pat in Citrus Park is listening. Pat, good morning. You're on the Nick Wise Show. You want Todd Bowles to stay. What do you love about Todd Bowles? Why are you not in the fire Todd Bowles crowd?
That's an excellent question. Here's the answer. I was totally against him a couple years ago, but I guard the visitors' locker room, and I've heard him yell at literally you can hear him in the tunnel. Most people don't know about Todd Bowles. By the way, I'm also the guy who had Chris Mathis.
Yeah, Pat, I don't need this story every time you call. I want to hear your Bucs insight, man. So you hear Todd Bowles' energy.
So I just want you to know he's running the defense and he's the head coach. We've got a great offensive coordinator. You're correct. And by the way, I love your new programming.
I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you so much.
And I'll see you in the press box. Look, the guy is awesome. He's just like Tomlin up in Pittsburgh. He is cool, calm, and collected. He never shows anything to the press. He just answers the question and keeps it simple. He is not great. He is not bad. He's very good, and he always gets you to the playoffs.
I appreciate the call, Pat. He does. He always not only does he get you to the playoffs, but you host playoff games. And I know you could easily say, well, it's the NFC South. The division stinks. Come on, you can't take that away from him. Winning a division in the NFL is tough, even if the division is bad. He still comes through. Again, he's got his issues. Don't get me wrong. But for the Fire Todd Bowles crowd, you think if Jason Light went to Mike Evans and said, Mike, you are the leader of this team. You're the face of the franchise. You are a first ballot Hall of Famer. You just tied Jerry Rice's record. Todd Bowles just got you $3 million by running a ballsy playoff or a ballsy play call with the playoffs on the line. Hey, Mike, do you want Todd Bowles fired? What do you think Mike Evans would say? Mike Evans would be pissed. He would not be happy with that. All right, I see the phone lines. I see we got the Fire Todd Bowles crowd on hold. I want to talk to you guys so bad. I'm going to take a break. It is literally less than 2 minutes. Not a lot of revenue on this show. So it's a less than 2 minute break. I want to take the calls. If you are a Fire Todd Bowles guy, I want to hear from you this morning. 888-546-4620. We got a couple open lines for you. It is the Nick Wise Show. It's 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
As America's largest injury law firm, size is our strength. Morgan & Morgan.
Tampa Bay crew, Coke Florida congratulates the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a great 2024-2025 season. As the local Coca-Cola bottler celebrating 10 years of business, Coke Florida is proud to be the Bucs' official beverage partner. From the season kickoff to the final touchdown, Coke Florida's 5,000 associates and passionate fans have cheered on the Bucs all season long. Raise the flags for Tampa Bay as the Bucs head to the playoffs. Coke Florida and the Bucs tackle game day with great taste.
When it comes to making fantasy picks on your favorite players, you want excitement, but you also want a platform you can trust. Better Picks is available in over 30 states, so if you're hearing this, it's probably available for you.
Better Picks is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Just pick more or less on your favorite player stats and put your skills to the test.
With Better Picks, you get the thrill of playing for up to 1,000 times your cash. So go ahead, make your picks and play for big wins with super fast payouts and withdrawals.
Go to betterpicks.com, BETRpicks.com, or download Better on the app or Play Store and use promo.
New and improved free iHeartRadio app today.
Get your most accurate home value estimate at DuncanDuo.com.
Playoff coverage on WDAE is powered by Chattanooga Whiskey.
Welcome back to the Nick Wise Show. Oh, my bad. Go ahead, Derek.
He's very quick with his thought process. Hopefully that continues this game. They got a variety of blitzes that they're going to bring for him, so we understand that as well. But he's sharp. He's seen them all at this point in his career, so he understands where he needs to go, and he'll get us in the right play.
Todd Bowles on Baker Mayfield being really good against the blitz. I do want to talk about Todd Bowles blitzing on Sunday. I think he needs to do a lot of it. I stepped all over that. My bad. It's my first day on the job. It's the Nick Wise Show. Brand new show. I used to do the show with Chris Mathis. He's got his own show, Casey Warner. They're coming up at 11 o'clock this morning. Chris and I had to break up so you could have more local coverage on your Saturdays. That's what we did. He'll be here 11 to 1. Rock Riley will be here at noon. No, I'm sorry. Rock Riley will be here at 1. And then Aaron Jacobson going to do 2 to 3. So we got a full day, local programming. Excited for it. To keep you informed on everything you need to know with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, I'm talking about Todd Bowles. I'm talking specifically to the Fire Todd Bowles crowd. I want to understand you. I want to know why you feel this way. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to criticize you for your opinion. I just want to understand why you feel the way you do. Looking at the, we're going to get to the phones here in just 1 sec. I want to go through a couple of the text messages on the Bartow Ford DAE text line. I gave Todd Bowles credit for hiring, elite offensive coordinators. Dave Canales, nobody knew who this guy was. After 1 year, he becomes a head coach. The guy had never even called plays. And there's a text message here that says, I think Baker revived himself and Canales had little to do with it. Come on, man. Don't get me wrong. Baker's a hard-working guy, but Dave Canales did have a little bit to do with that. You think Bryce Young just kind of turned it around at the end of the year on his own? Bryce Young was awful last year. Looked like a surefire bust, one of the worst busts of all time. And Dave Canales has kind of changed that narrative. Carolina Panthers fans are probably like, okay, we might have something here. That's Dave Canales. Here's a text from Sarasota. They can't fire Todd Bowles. However, let's not kid ourselves. This defense is terrible. Look, the defense is really banged up. It really is. They're going to be a little bit healthier this weekend. You got a lot of guys coming back. Jamel Dean, Antoine Winfield Jr. That's going to help. When you got these guys that are playing in the secondary that you don't even know who they were until the season started. That's not easy to do. And I know everybody in the NFL is injured. You got to get over it. But, it doesn't make the job easy when all of these guys are hurt. Another text. The team has been successful this year because of the offense. Correct. Guess who was a big part of hiring Liam Cohen? Todd Bowles. It's not just Jason Light. Another one says, I'm slowly reversing my fire Bowles take. Just don't botch the playoffs. Steven in Trinity writes, reminds me of Dungy when it comes to Bowles. Great human, but may just need a new voice to put them over the top. Fire Todd if it means keeping Liam. Interesting. You guys think Mike Evans will be okay with firing Todd Bowles? I don't think he would be. I think he'd be pissed. Let's go to Ryan in Wesley Chapel. Ryan, you are up next. It is the Nick Y Show, 95.3 WDA and AM 620. Ryan, you're in the Fire Todd Bowles crowd. Explain why.
Hey, thanks, Nick, for taking my call. I'm
Anytime.
not necessarily on the fire him side. I used to be more than I am now. My biggest thing is the man just shows zero emotion. And that's probably a weak excuse, but I think a head coach in the NFL needs to be fired up, needs to show some emotion. And honestly, I think that he's probably just average. I think that we're getting by with him. Maybe there's someone else out there better that would really put us over the top. What do you think?
Well, I think average. Thanks for the call, Ryan. I think average coach is better than below average, right? You could always get worse. So I think Todd Bowles is safe. Now, there's this narrative that Todd Bowles doesn't get fired up. That's just not true. He just doesn't do it at the podium like Dan Campbell, per se, right? They're two totally different types of personalities. And yes, as a radio person who wants to play fantastic audio for you at all times, I'd love Todd Bowles to be like Dan Campbell and give me great quotes. He's not going to do that. He's dry, he's dull, he's kind of boring. But inside the locker room, he's much different. We just had a call a couple minutes ago from a guy who works in the tunnel every game day. He says you can hear Todd Bowles yelling in the locker room all the time. We saw a little bit of it, or we heard a little bit of it on the radio halftime show when he was headed into the locker room. He told TJ Reeves basically that the defense needs to get their heads out of their butts. Right? Like, Todd Bowles does get fired up. I really hate that line of thinking that he's got to go because he doesn't show you his emotional side. Because I think it's different to the guys that are in the locker room and on the field every Sunday. Let's go to Dwayne in St. Pete. Dwayne, you're on the Nick Y Show. What's up, buddy?
Okay, how you doing this morning? Okay, my thing is pretty much like the last caller just said. We want to see a coach cursing some people out on the sideline, not standing there with his arms folded and just not doing nothing. We want to see a coach. He should have did the same thing that Bruce Arians did. He said, okay, we're going to bring Tom Brady in. We fixed the line. Okay? He haven't addressed the issue with the defensive cornerbacks the whole time he's been there, and that's been a problem for a long time. You know, we've been going through, being a diehard Bucs fan, we've been going through it a long time. We want to see a better team and a better coach.
What exactly do you mean? I mean, you've been to the playoffs. You're the only team in the last 5 years in the NFC that's been to the playoffs every single year. And Dwayne, look, I know that historically Tampa Bay hasn't always had it great, right? In my time here, though,
right.
I got on these airwaves in 2020. I started right after the bye week when the Bucs went on the run and went to the Super Bowl. So I was on the station for like a year before I even spoke about a Buccaneers loss, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. But in the last 5 years, Dwayne, don't you feel like it always works out for the Bucs? Because I feel that way. I feel it always works out for Tampa Bay. I put it out on Twitter last week when they were down 16-6 at halftime. Word for word. I don't have it up in front of me, but it went something like this. The Bucs will win. Okay. Relax. It doesn't matter. It always works out for the Bucs was my message. And it does. You go 8-9, Dwayne, you make the playoffs. Like in the last 5 years, it always works out for you.
But we want more. We want more than the playoffs now. You know what I mean?
You just had a Super Bowl in 2020. You've gotten more than so many other teams.
But when you come into training camp, your focus should be not to go to the playoffs, but to win a Super Bowl. That's what I think you should do. And you got to address this. I mean, just like the Denver game. You had a rookie quarterback come and throw for 500 yards against you. That's not good.
Dwayne, that was what I call a scheduled loss. I said the Bucs were going to get hammered that game. That's what happens when you beat a team in Detroit. You stole one there, and then you gave one right back. That's just the NFL. And Denver, by the way, has been pretty damn good. So that loss doesn't look as bad these days. You know, now you look back at that loss and you're like, Denver actually is really good. Sean Payton's also very familiar with Todd Bowles. I'm not saying Todd Bowles is the greatest coach. I'm just saying I'm not going to get rid of him because he crosses his fingers on or crosses his arms on the sideline and doesn't show me the emotion in public. Because I feel like a lot of people want him fired just over that, which seems kind of silly. But I really mean that, guys. And I know that I haven't been here as long as most of you. I know there's been tough years in Tampa Bay. I know they're one of the worst losing franchises of all time. But in the last 5 years, it always works out. And that's kind of the conversation I had with Pat Donovan when he threw me under the bus yesterday on the airwaves. Nick Wise said the Falcons were going to win the South. I told him in the hallways that the Falcons probably should have won the South if they had a halfway decent coach. They beat the best team in the division twice. They still fumbled the bag. They should have, but they're incompetent. Because it always works out for the Bucs, or at least in the last 5 years. That was what I meant by that. Let's go to John in Lakeland. John wants to talk about Todd Bowles. John, you're on the Nick Wise Show.
Good day.
Good day.
I'm not necessarily in the fired Todd Bowles camp. I'm in the Liam Cohen should not leave under any circumstances camp, and that means if Todd Bowles has to go. The offense has been top 5 all year. The defense has been essentially bottom 5 all year. Todd Bowles' defense has been poor. Yes, there's been injuries, but everyone has injuries. And next year when they have injuries, that will be an excuse as well. I think the scheme, the soft zone has murdered us. When we get bounced from the playoffs, it'll be because of this defense, probably not because of the offense. I don't think, like many, Godwin should have been in the game that was decided long before he went down in the Ravens game. That was a Bowles decision.
John, let me ask you this, John. John, let me cut in real quick because you brought up the Godwin thing. Would you say Dan Campbell is one of the best coaches in the NFL right now?
I don't know. Gambling Dan.
Would you say? Let me ask you this. Would you say he's a top 5 coach?
I would say top 10. He's close to top 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
last week they were up 31-9. Every one of their starters were in the ball game with 2 minutes to go. They were up by, I'm not good at math, but they wwere up by a lot, 31-9. What's that, 20?
Yeah, but the following week after the Ravens, we had the Falcons, and we had to have that game.
Right, John, but my point is that's the NFL. These guys don't want to sit. Nobody sits. They don't do that. The odds of Godwin getting hurt that day were very, very slim. Yes, it happened, and that sucked. But, the odds of that happening were slim. And they were still in the ball game. I know it seemed like they weren't, but down 10 with the ball, a minute to go, you had just recovered an onside kick. You don't quit. You know when Todd Bowles quit? Was in Detroit when he had time on the clock. And we murdered him for that. And then now we're he quit on us, and he should have quit in that game against Baltimore. Now, guys, it's the NFL. Everyone plays their guys. Detroit a couple weeks ago, we were just talking about Dan Campbell. San Francisco, that game meant nothing. They are about to play the Vikings in the biggest regular season game ever. Every one of their stars, St. Brown, Goff, Gibbs, Penei Sewell, all of them played against San Francisco in a meaningless game that meant nothing. That is the NFL. All right, phone lines are loaded right now. We're talking about Todd Bowles. All of you that are on the phone lines, stay put. I'm going to take a 3-minute break right now. And when we come back, we're going to continue this Todd Bowles conversation because I'm loving it. This is fantastic. I'm understanding your side. So 888-546-4620. That's the number. We got room if you want to hop aboard. We're talking about Todd Bowles. I just, if you're in the Fire Todd Bowles crowd, I want to know why. All right, we'll take more of your calls next. We'll take your text, 82945 on the Bartow 4DA text line. You can start your text with DAE. It is the Nick Wise Show, live on a Saturday.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 6.
It had nothing to do with Canales. All right, well, then explain Bryce Young. 888-546-4620 is the phone number. You want to join us this morning. We are streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We are also live on the free iHeartRadio app, new improved iHeartRadio app. Definitely check that out if you haven't. Our last caller brought up how, Todd Bowles should be fired because Chris Godwin was in that game. It was a blowout against Baltimore. Shouldn't have been there. Why were the starters in? Yeah, I look at that game. They were down 10 with a minute to go, had the ball, just recovered an onside kick. I don't think you quit in that situation. I think it's unfortunate Chris Godwin got hurt, but I don't think you can just lay down and quit. What kind of message is that? I don't think Baker would have wanted Godwin out of that game. I don't think Godwin would have wanted to come out of that game. I used the example to last Sunday's game in mop-up duty. It's 31-9. Dan Campbell had all of the starters in the game with 2 minutes to go. The game was all but over. We had a texter text in. If a key Lions player got hurt in that game last week, Campbell would also be crucified and should be. That was from Sean. Guess what? A key member of the offensive line got hurt. Kevin Zeitler, the guard, who had just come over from the Baltimore Ravens. A key player to that offense in Detroit is their offensive line, and one of them got hurt. And Dan Campbell hasn't been crucified. He does things that are odd. The week before that, all of the starters played in San Francisco in a meaningless game. Whether they won or not, the game against Minnesota was for all the marbles. If Todd Bowles had been in that situation and played all of the starters against San Francisco, we'd still be talking about it. We'd be crucifying the guy. Guys, that's just the NFL. They're all competitive. Nobody's trying to sit. The odds of Chris Godwin getting hurt in that day were so slim. It happened, but slim. Text message coming in on the Bartow Ford DAE text line, 82945. Nick, I don't agree. The defense has been terrible. Teams consistently just march down the field in a very short time when they need to, and it doesn't matter who the quarterback is on the other side. They always look like an all-pro. Yeah, the defense has faced some injuries, and look, every team's faced injuries, so I can't just use that as the excuse of Todd Bowles. But you have to outweigh the good with the bad. How about the young players on this defense? How about the Tyke Smiths? You think that was Jason Light's call to draft him? Jason Light had the final approval. You think Todd Bowles didn't, spot the talent there? Yaya Diaby, round 4, 3? Regardless, wasn't a day 1 or day 2 pick. He spotted that talent. That's Todd Bowles. Elijah Cansey, first round. Leads the team in sacks right now, 7.5. You don't think Todd Bowles identified the talent of Cansey? Todd Bowles, with Jason Light, hired an offensive coordinator that's never called plays before, gets a head coaching job a year later. Restart the process, hires an offensive coordinator. Looks like he's probably going to get a head coaching job after 1 year. Don't get me wrong, there's the blunders. There's the clock management issues. Houston last year, Detroit in the playoffs last year. There are downsides to Todd Bowles. I just think that there's a lot worse than Todd Bowles than there are better. And some of you are going, what is this guy smoking? I want some of it. But it really is the truth. I was telling you guys earlier that I like to listen to radio around the country, especially playoff teams right now, see who's talking about what. Every time they talk about the Bucs, they talk about a Todd Bowles defense. It is respected around the league. It's respected around the country, everywhere, but here. I think the quarterback, the coach, the goalie, always going to take the most heat in a town. And that's kind of what this is. Let's go to Larry in Tampa. Larry wants Todd Bowles fired. Larry, good morning. You're on the Nick Wise Show.
Hey, how you doing? I'm not that adamant about him being fired, but I think the credit with the OCs, Canales and Liam Cohen, I think you got to take a step back. If you go back to the offseason leading into when Canales was hired, I think you'll go back and see, I think he was probably like their 4th or 5th option. So I think there was some good luck and fortune associated with that. I think that they would have hired somebody long before him had they been willing to come here. with Cohen, I think it wasn't a mystery. I mean, they had a connection with Baker going back to the Rams.
They had like a 3-game connection.
What's that?
They had like a 3-week connection together, him and Baker Mayfield. It wasn't like they were, really super familiar with themselves. It was really that they worked together for, I think, a couple games while Matthew Stafford was out. Baker Mayfield won a crazy game, like 72 hours. I think it was less than that, like 24 hours after he arrived in L.A. They didn't have a lot of time together. It wasn't like Liam Cohen was the automatic guy because he worked with Baker one time.
Right, but I think initially, the hot name, and I think the Bucs were probably honing in on that Zach Robinson. I believe he was the OC for the Rams, but he went to Atlanta. So I think just with that Baker connection, and don't get me wrong, I think that was a great pick, but I'm just really going back to the Canales thing. I think that was lucky. The Cohen thing, I think, was somewhat of a connection. And then just going back with Bowles and the success, obviously we've talked about it. It's the offense success that's really taken them to where they're at. And you could make a case that the defense has regressed over the past 3 years. I mean, there's been some good draft picks stuck in there, young talent, potential, yeah, but overall performance, I don't know.
Well, I think that the defensive side of the ball, thanks for the call, Larry. I really appreciate you. I think the defensive side of the ball has taken a lot more hits this year than the offense. And again, I'm not trying to make all the excuses for Todd Bowles. I know he has his flaws. I'm just not at the point to where I'm like, I can fire the guy, the first ever coach to win back divisions. Or no, what was he got? 3 in a row now? The team has 4. Like, I can't. The negatives don't outweigh the positives. His hires, you're talking about Dave Canales. He was kind of lucky. To me, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. See, I'm on the opposite side of that. Nobody wanted that job, and you ended up with Dave Canales and struck gold. Dave Canales is like this QB whisperer. You've revived Baker Mayfield. And I know he wasn't the head coach at the time, but in that Super Bowl, without him, you're not winning that Super Bowl. That game plan was just so good. And again, if you were able to sit down with Mike Evans and just have a one-on-one conversation and said, hey, Mike, I want to fire Todd Bowles. You think Mike Evans would sign off on that? No way. No chance in hell. The players love playing for him. I know he doesn't always show the emotion on the sidelines. And like I said, I'm in radio, so I wish he would. I'd love to have the audio clips that other coaches put out there. Dan Campbell comes to mind, who we've talked about a couple times today. I'd love to have that. Biting kneecaps. Instead, I get, dry, plain Bowles. But, you can't deny his hires on the offensive coordinator positions. You can't deny some of his draft picks. Had a really good draft last year. Jason Light gets all the credit, but come on, guys. Todd Bowles has a lot to say in that. Tyke Smith, that's Todd Bowles. We love Tyke, right? We love Yaya Diaby. That's Todd Bowles. We like Kalijah Cansey. Again, that's Todd Bowles. Let's go to Charlie in Tampa. He's actually on the other side of things. He wants to keep Todd Bowles. Charlie, you're on the Nick Wise Show on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
First of all, Nick, congrats on the new show. Best of luck, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man. I gave it to myself, so,
I know. Hey, listen,
I didn't really earn it.
That's one of the that's one of the benefits of having worked your way up the hierarchy. You're put in a position where you can do that.
Thanks, man.
Hey, so listen, I have a unique perspective because I'm a diehard Jets fan, and we had Todd Bowles as our head coach for a number of years, and I hated him, and he was awful, and we had awful talent, and I couldn't stand the guy. And then when he became the head coach of the Bucs, I still couldn't stand him, and then I started warming up to him, and it dawned upon me that the fans, I'm a diehard Bucs fan now because I live here for a long time, but they have an overinflated sense of, I guess, ego or of self-worth of what you have in the way of talent on this roster. It's good. They're young. There's a lot of potential, but the Bucs fan is acting like they have the same roster as the Lions. Todd's done a lot with a little or a medium amount of talent, and you also have to think that of all the variables, there was a ton of injuries this year. there's a lot of chaos with the hurricane and being able to manage through that people don't look through behind the lines. They just look at, the last 2 minutes and the management on the field. It goes way deeper than that for a head coach, and I think he's done actually a great job this year, and I would never even think of replacing him with who, because you don't know someone else's warts, and the grass is not always greener. Todd's done a very good job here in Tampa Bay. Is he perfect, like you said? No, but I'll tell you what, it's time to give him his flowers, and it's definitely due, and I never thought I would say that, being a diehard Jet fan, because he was terrible in New York, but he's definitely come around, and I actually appreciate the fact that he's not so vociferous and crazy and boastful with the media. He gives you what he gives you, and then behind closed doors, he keeps things private. If he starts moving furniture at halftime, like it sounds like he has, he's done a great job of that. I actually think he's done a really good job. I give him a B+, A-, and go Bucks this weekend, 31-30 Bucks.
Charlie, it's hard to be successful in New York when the owner is asking his kids what the Madden ratings are for his players. So hard to really put the New York experiment with Todd Bowles. It's hard to take it serious. The Jets are a mess. All right, look, the phone line's still going. I see Wayne and Brian on hold. They want to talk about Todd Bowles. I'll continue talking about this game. I also, I want to get into my prediction for the game this weekend. We're going to get into all of that. Hour number 2 coming up next.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Exclusive wildcard playoff game is coming tonight. Into the end zone. TJ Watt and the Steelers take on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in a playoff showdown between AFC North rivals. And it's only on Prime Video. What a great job. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. The Steelers and the Ravens in Prime's exclusive wildcard playoff game. Powered by Verizon. Tonight at 7:30 Eastern. Only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Listening on the free iHeartRadio app? Thanks to Farrah and Farrah, it's never been easier to send your opinions directly to your favorite show. When you open the app, click the red talkback microphone and hit send. Farrah and Farrah, here to make it easy, Tampa.
This is Monster Jam. Witness big air, two-wheel skills, backflips, and all-out racing. Monster Jam, as big as it gets. Brought to you by Bubba's 33. Buy 3 tickets and get 1 free with a savings coupon from participating Texas Roadhouse and Bubba's 33 locations. Restrictions may apply. See store for details. Coming to Raymond James Stadium February 1st and 2nd.
From the Rude Air and Water Studios, powered locally by Ferguson HVAC. Engineered tough, built to last.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio. We are 95.3 W237CW Pinellas Park, WRUB HD3 Clearwater, and the mighty AM 620 WDAE St. Petersburg, an iHeart radio station.
It's the Nick Wise Show, hour number 2. On 95.3 WDAE and AM 620, streaming live on the free iHeartRadio app. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter this morning. You can join us, 888-546-4620. Bartow Ford DAE text line, 82945. We're talking about Todd Bowles. We're going to wrap this conversation up. This was planned to really just go for a segment, but it just continues to go. It's such a hot topic here in Tampa Bay. You either love him or you hate him, and I've enjoyed hearing from both sides. And we're going to hear from both sides one last time. We got one fire Todd Bowles on the line. We got one keep Todd Bowles on the line. We'll talk to both of these guys. And then I want to go through, I've got the receipts for all my predictions this year. I hit a couple. I was really bad on a couple, too. So those will give us a good laugh. I also want to go through coaching carousel predictions, who ends up where. We'll do that this segment. But let's wrap up this topic on Todd Bowles. We'll go with Wayne in Tampa. Wayne wants to fire Todd Bowles. Wayne, good morning. You're on the Nick Wise Show, man. What you got for us?
Look, here's the problem with Todd Bowles. I look at the critical moments this season and whether or not he showed up. The Chiefs in overtime. First of all, he was scared to go for it. When we got the touchdown, we should have gone for 2. He took a bet on his defense. Well, that was a terrible bet, wasn't it? We lost the game. Let's look at the Falcons game in overtime. Again, critical moment for the defense. Can't hold up. We're faulty in the most critical situations, and that's my problem with Todd Bowles.
If I remember correctly in the Atlanta game, real quick, Wayne, if I remember in the Atlanta game, wasn't there a turnover by the offense late in that game, or am I thinking of a different game? There was a game where the offense when Rashad White fumbled it. Was that not on the offense and Liam Cohen?
I mean, you could. Is the fumble on Liam Cohen himself?
Yeah. Was the defense not being able to stop a nosebleed on Todd Bowles himself?
That's the problem. The defense couldn't stop anything.
I know,
but we've got a defense-minded head coach. We've got average points per game allowed, right? We're sitting right in the middle. So if we want an average team that makes the playoffs, first, second round exit like the Steelers for the next 20 years, we keep Todd Bowles. That's fine.
Oh, dude, an elite offense, which you have in a middle-of-the-pack defense, you can win a championship with that. To me, it's not. Wayne, I think the times have changed. I think you need. And I know some people disagree with me because they'll be like, well, the Chiefs they won the Super Bowl with the defense. Well, they also won it with Michael Jordan on the other side. I think that offense wins championship these days. The favorite to win the Super Bowl right now are the Detroit Lions. It's all offense. Their defense is, most of them are in wheelchairs and not playing. And you guys have that with a defense that's, comparable to what they have. And you have an offense comparable to what they have. So I think, if I could choose between elite defense, middle of the pack offense, or elite offense, middle of the pack defense, I'll go with what you got here in Tampa Bay.
Hey, listen, when we're watching this game tomorrow and we don't have a QB spy on Jaden Daniels, it's going to be scary, but I hope we take care of him. If the Bucs let up a touchdown and we lose the game, Bulls have got to go.
I appreciate the call, Wayne. Look, Jaden Daniels is going to get his. I always hear this all the time. Running quarterbacks are our kryptonite. Guys, running quarterbacks are the kryptonite for every team in the league. Like, every team struggles against running quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels is going to get his tomorrow night. But a rookie quarterback also hasn't won in the playoffs on the road since 2012. And I trust Todd Bowles' defense in this situation. All right, last call on the topic. Then I want to laugh at some of my predictions. Brian in Plant City, you want to keep Todd Bowles. I got you on the Nick Wise Show. What's up, Brian?
Hey, we got to keep him. And that quarterback from Washington, he will not get his tomorrow night. The defense is healthy now, so I feel sorry for it. Todd should stay here. These people in Tampa still don't get it. They just don't get it. They don't know football. They just don't get it. You're going to get another coach, then you're going to go back and have to wait another 5 or 6 years before you win anything again. It's just crazy. They've done the same thing with Tony Dungy. You don't have to cuss a player out of get in a player's face. It doesn't take all that. This man done went to the playoffs 5 years straight, and they still tonight getting rid of him. And most of these people want to get rid of him. They haven't even invested in the team. They're not even season ticket holders. Most of them don't even go to the game, but they want him gone. I don't understand it.
That's just football fans, Brian. We're emotional. We overreact each week. We don't step back and think about things. I don't think that people in Tampa Bay don't know what they're talking about. I think they
don't know. Trust me, they're still ignorant. I talk with them daily.
Brian, it's like this every market. I remember for years, all Yankee fans wanted Joe Girardi fired. The dude just won a World Series. They still wanted him fired in 2010 after winning it in 2009. That's really just it. That's anywhere. I just think we got to step back and look at the bigger picture and understand, are there some negativities about Todd Bowles? Absolutely. Are there some really good things about Todd Bowles too? Absolutely. All right, so I thought this would be kind of fun. We got a lot of things to get to here in the last hour of the show. There's a lot of things that we didn't get to so far today because that topic kind of, taking up a lot of time. It was a good conversation. I really appreciate everybody's input, especially on the brand new solo show, the Nick Wise Show. Always good to have the listener interaction. I've kind of branded this show as this is the show where your opinion matters. I always love hearing it. So I appreciate everybody who called in today. I want to go back to the prediction show that we did on in my phone and my notes. It's dated for August 28th. which would have been, let me go back to that. Let me see if that's right. August 28th. That was a Wednesday. So the show would have been August 31st. Or, no, I'm sorry. August 31st. We did a prediction show, myself and Chris Mathis. And some of these predictions are pretty good. I went back and looked at them like, God, I was wrong on some of these. The Miami Hurricanes, 10-2 records, what I had them at. That's what they had in the regular season. I'm pretty sure. Let me go back and look. Did I have that one right? They finished 10-4, but they lost their last two. So what did they go? 10-3. All right, I was close. I had them winning the ACC championship. Here's one you can laugh at. Florida State, I had going 9-3. What was I thinking? What happened to Florida State? And I don't want to depress you, so we won't go down that ladder. But I'm not a big idiot because Nick Saban picked Florida State to win the ACC. So, look, and Nick Saban was out there at practices. Nick Saban saw something. I don't know what happened. I was never a big believer in DJ Uiagalelei. I didn't have Florida State winning the ACC, but I thought in the ACC they would win 9 games. They did not do that. I had USF at 8-4. Pretty good on the USF front, right? They went 7-6. I was close. The Buccaneers, I had at 9-8. Not bad. 1 game off. If you look at the Big Ten championship, I had OSU over Oregon. SEC championship, I had Georgia over Ole Miss. So I was close there. I had Georgia. I didn't really love Georgia this year, but I didn't really love anybody in the SEC this year. I don't think the SEC, I think NIL has kind of brought everybody closer to the SEC. I still think it's the premier college football conference. I can't say that it's not, but I do think NIL has helped close the gap a little bit. The Big 12, I had Utah over Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was just maybe the most disappointing team in all of college football. Cam Rising for Utah got hurt, so that was a bad prediction. Let's look at the NFL predictions. Some of these are still alive. I've got the NFC South. It says in my phone I had the Bucs. I thought I took the Falcons. I had the NFC. I had the Lions winning. AFC, I had the Chiefs winning, so that's still alive. College Football National Championship. I had Ohio State over Georgia. Looks like it's going to be Ohio State over Notre Dame. So some good, some bad. That's what's fun about predictions. I like to keep the receipts, let you know where I was wrong, let you know where I was right. I really don't care if I'm wrong or right. I just hope that you're entertained on a Saturday morning. Let's make a couple other predictions real quick. And then I want to talk about the NFL playoffs, including the Commanders and the Buccaneers coming up on Sunday night. So there are 6 head coach openings right now in the NFL. And I got a crazy prediction for the Bears, right? It's probably something that's not going to happen, but I got a good take here that I think I would like to see happen. And it could happen. I think it's a long shot, but I think it's a good take. So the Bears I'll get to last. Let's start with the New York Jets. I think the New York Jets are going to hire an Aaron Glenn. I think what Aaron Glenn did last week in Detroit against the Vikings, that game plan with a hurt defense, that's what we've been waiting for Todd Bowles to do, right? Just blitz the hell out of a quarterback who holds onto the ball too long. And if you end up having to play the Minnesota Vikings, Aaron Glenn gave you the recipe on how to beat Sam Darnold, who likes to hold on to the football. Blitz him. He's horrible under the blitz, and he's seeing ghosts. So I got Aaron Glenn going to the New York Jets. Used to play there. There's some ties. I think that game against Minnesota earned him a job. The Raiders. You know, a lot of people talking about Bill Belichick possibly ending up here. Could it be Bill? I think it'd be really bad for Bill to, and I'm not saying he wouldn't do it, but to sign up with a college, recruit these players, and then just straight up leave, I think would be wrong. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that the Raiders are going to hire Steve Spagnuolo of the Chiefs. If he wants a head coaching job, he might be happy being a defensive coordinator. Kind of like how Ben Johnson in Detroit is always just happy with being an offensive coordinator. Spags might be that guy. The Saints, they haven't interviewed him yet because they can't. But like the Raiders, you know, they go into the Chiefs, steal one of their best weapons, Steve Spagnuolo. If I'm the Saints, why wouldn't they do the same with Liam Cohen? Right? Get the guy out of one of your rivals. Make him your head coach. So I'm going to say Liam Cohen goes to the Saints. I know you don't want to hear that. And it might not happen. Coaching predictions are very hard. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Liam Cohen with the Saints. Now, would Liam want to take that job? Maybe not. You know, I know that there's some issues there with the general manager and the front office in New Orleans. It's not the most desirable opening. The Jaguars, I think, end up... Jaguars. Some people make fun of the way I say it. The Jaguars, I think they're going to hire Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson finally does take a job. And if he doesn't, then maybe it's because he wants to do it again with Detroit. I don't know if they don't get the job done this year. I think eventually he's got to leave, right, and take a head coaching job. And you've got Brian Thomas, who looks like he's going to be an elite wide receiver. You have Trevor Lawrence, who has potential, hasn't lived up to the prospect that he was, but I think he's got the tools. Patriots, Mike Vrabel. I think I called that one last year. I said Gerard Mayo will be a one and done. They'll hire Mike Vrabel. That's what's going to happen. Now, the Bears. Here's one that I think is interesting. Hear me out on this before you dismiss it. Ryan Day. I think there's some ties there. And if you're Ryan Day, you know, when you lost to Michigan, they murdered you. That fan base is never happy. That is the most toxic fan base there is. It's never good enough for them. The standard is very high. The fan base is the most annoying fan base. They make life hell for him and his family when they don't win that game. If I'm Ryan Day, I'm winning the Natty this year, and then I'm flipping everybody off like Antonio Brown, and I'm walking off. Like, F you, Columbus. I'm out. There's your championship. Now you want me back. I'm gone. Wouldn't that be a great story? I'm going to root for radio because that'd be a great story for radio. Give me Ryan Day to Chicago. Probably doesn't happen. But I like the take, so I went with it. All right, NFL playoff matchups. I want to rank the order of teams that I would want the Buccaneers to play if they were to win on Sunday. The possible matchups they could end up with in the divisional round. Which ones I like, which ones I don't. I also want to talk about the game tomorrow night. All of that. Bucs playoff talk coming up next on The Nick Wise Show.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. From the Cool Today Weather Center, cooltoday.com.
As we head into your Saturday afternoon, looks like the clouds are going to stick around. Temperatures are cool in the low to mid 60s, but by the second half of the afternoon, we'll dip down into the upper 50s, mid 50s this evening, and into the mid to upper 40s overnight. Sunday should be a nice day, plenty of sunshine, and temperatures still on the chilly side, mid 60s. By the time the Bucs start, we'll have some.
Go to 953 WDAE.com/rules. Playoff coverage on WDAE is powered by Chattanooga Whiskey.
I believe getting there is one thing. I think you got to take care of the football. I think you got to be able to run it, and I think you got to stop the run. I think you got to limit the mistakes and the penalties. Those things all come down to it at the end. If you can do those things, you have a chance of winning the football game.
Todd Bowles on what it takes to win in the playoffs, and that is what we are going to do tomorrow night. We all hope, right? Taking on a rookie quarterback here at Raymond James Stadium. Sunday night football. What more could you ask for? And I got to be honest, I think you not only got the home game for winning the division, I think you got the opponent. Out of all the opponents you could play in the first round, I really truly believe this is the best one you could have asked for. Either Washington or Green Bay, obviously, would be the two that you'd want. But I think anytime I can take a Todd Bowles defense, and I know that doesn't hold the same weight as it maybe once did, like in 2020. The defense has been suspect at times. But if you can give me Todd Bowles game planning against a rookie quarterback, I'll take it every single time. And don't get me wrong, Jaden Daniels is going to have his. The running quarterbacks always do. A play is going to break down. Jaden's going to escape. He's going to make some plays with his feet. We expect that, right? Oftentimes people are like, Todd Bowles sucks with running quarterbacks. This Bucs defense can never stop running quarterbacks. Guys, that is what every single defensive coordinator and head coach says in this league. There is an advantage with running quarterbacks. That's why they exist. That's why the league has gone that way. They are everybody's kryptonite, not just yours, I promise. So I was looking at the possible opponents for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? And I understand they got to get past the Washington Commanders. And my prediction for that game is coming up 10:30 this morning. But, I wanted to kind of look ahead too. Not just, I don't want to look past it, but I did want to just, you're doing the same thing in your head, right? You're looking at this and you're like, all right, if we win, who do I want to play next? That's just what we do as fans. Not even just as a radio host. I do it as a fan. Like, I definitely am playing every single scenario out in my head. If you're not, what are you doing? Like, we're not on the team. I don't want the players doing that. But as fans, we do it. Like, I don't need to sit here and focus on the Commanders. You don't need to sit here and focus on the Commanders. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Todd Bowles, Liam Cohen, Levante David, Jamel Dean, Antoine Winfield Jr. They got to focus on the Commanders and only the Commanders. But I've definitely looked outside of this game, trying to create a path that I would like to play out for the Buccaneers to try to get to the Super Bowl. Now, I think the one great thing is you can't play Detroit next round. You can't play them until the NFC Championship. That's an advantage right there. That is the advantage you got when the Rams decided to sit everybody in their final game. I really don't understand that move by Sean McVay. I would have played my starters. I would have wanted the 3 seed. There's so many more advantages to the 3 seed. Now, I understand in LA, it's not a great home field advantage. And obviously this week, the game, because of the fires in LA, thinking about everybody that's out there. In fact, if you were listening, before my show today, our Fox Sports affiliate office and studios are based out of LA. You probably noticed there was Christmas programming on today. I was confused too. I reached out to see what was going on. A lot of the guys can't get to the studios because of the fires. Lucky for you, we are local until 3 o'clock today. Following me, the brand new Chris and Casey show. My former co-host, Chris Mathis, with Casey Warner from the Pat and Aaron show. Rock Riley after them. Aaron Jacobson after Rock Riley. But I was looking ahead, just trying to create my path for the Buccaneers. And the teams that they could play if they were to win tomorrow night, the Vikings, Rams, and Eagles. Certainly you've played the scenario out in your head, right? You can't play the Packers, you can't play the Lions, because if the Packers beat the Eagles, they go to Detroit. And you can't play the Lions because you're the 3 seed. The lowest seed will play the Lions. And whatever happens this weekend, you will not be the lowest seed left because you're the 3. So you got the Eagles, you got the Rams, the Vikings. Those are the teams that you could play if you win on Sunday. Obviously, your opponent is based on how everything else shakes up. But my dream scenario is for the Bucs to win Sunday and face the Vikings. That's the team I want to play. And look, you might be going, you want to play the 14-win team? Justin Jefferson against this secondary? I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Not saying it's not going to be stressful. I'm not saying you're not going to be pacing back and forth in the living room. You're going to be doing that tomorrow, too. And you'd be certainly doing it against the Vikings. But to me, the Vikings is the team you want. Todd Bowles likes to blitz. Guess what Sam Darnold can't handle? The blitz. I think the Vikings are a good team, but I think that the Lions showed us last Sunday night, and Aaron Glenn, we talked about it earlier, that game alone is getting him a lot of interviews and probably going to land him a head coaching job. My prediction, the New York Jets got some ties there. But he gave Todd Bowles the blueprint. It would be on the Bucs players to just execute the exact same game plan the Bucs did. Sam Darnold holds on to the football so long. And if the Bucs, and I know the defensive line, especially on the edge, hasn't been great at times. Even worse, really, is the Lions since Aiden Hutchinson went out. And they were able to get pressure on Darnold, and I think the Bucs could too. After the Vikings, it would be the Rams, obviously, because, I don't want to go to Philly. The Rams, you get a home game. So, nothing really to break down there. I just don't want to go to Philly and play in the cold. And, look, I understand that the history of this team, there's some history in Philadelphia, shut down the vet. I'm not saying it can't be done. And you did beat the Eagles earlier this year, albeit they were without two superstars. In the wide receiver core, with A.J. Brown being out and Devontae Smith being out in that game. But regardless, you won and you pounded them in the playoffs a year ago. But Vikings, Rams, Eagles is the order that I would like to play in the next round. But of course, they got to win on Sunday first. They got to beat the Washington Commanders. I'm really looking forward to this matchup on Sunday. I think if you look at all the playoff games, this one was put at Sunday night for a reason. This is the premier game of the weekend. I think when you look at all the matchups, pull up the NFL schedule. What game is better than the one we're going to get to see? I think the Chargers in Houston's a good one today. You got C.J. Stroud against Jim Harbaugh, Ohio State quarterback, Michigan coach. There's some beef there in college. C.J. Stroud never defeated Jim Harbaugh. So that one, you're going to hear that storyline a lot today. I expect that one to get old during the broadcast. I believe that's going to be Tony Romo. I don't know for sure. It's on CBS. I'm assuming it's going to be those guys. Ooh, Jim. 8 o'clock tonight. People are going to hate this one. This is going to piss you off, but Pittsburgh and Baltimore are going to be on Prime. So Kirk Herbstreit going to be on the call there with Al Michaels. The storyline there, not so sexy. This is going to be the third time we've seen this game this year. Big spread, 9.5. I do like Pittsburgh to cover that spread. This is the playoffs. And it's Lamar in the playoffs as well. Lamar hasn't been great there. So I think today's lineup, pretty good set of games. Still think Tampa Bay, Washington, the best one. Denver, Buffalo. Buffalo should roll. They really should, at home, against a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterback hasn't won on the road since 2012. There's two rookie quarterbacks on the road this weekend, one of them being Bo Nix, the other Jaden Daniels. I do think the Green Bay-Philly game is intriguing. I think that'll be a good one. That one's at 4:30 tomorrow. That'll be a good one. I think, though, the premier game, and Minnesota and the Rams, decent game too, but Washington, Tampa Bay, that is the clear-cut best game of the weekend. I want to talk all about that game coming up next. I want to give you my prediction, what I think is going to happen, what I think the Bucs need to do. All of that coming up next. It's the Nick Weiss Show on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Get your most accurate home value estimate at DuncanDuo.com.
Achieve real goals at Epic Health and Fitness. Experience a real gym with top-notch equipment, expert trainers, and a supportive community. See real results with personalized programs tailored to your needs. Our gyms have the best equipment, recovery services, motivational staff, open 24/7, and never overcrowded, no matter what time of year. Join us today and transform your life. Visit EpicHealthAndFitness.com. Epic Health and Fitness. Real goals, real gym, real results.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out. Going down in the rinse straight. Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash wash and smell so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
Hey guys, T-Kraz here for Catania and Catania. If you or someone you love has been injured in an accident, protect your rights. Do what I did. Call Catania and Catania, the personal injury law firm located right here in Tampa Bay. They work on a contingency, which means there's no cost to you unless they win. So give them a call. 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545 or online at CataniaCatania.com to get that free evaluation of your case. Catania and Catania, they put families first. Office Tampa, non-attorney spokesman.
Country Thunder Florida comes to Raymond James Stadium May 2nd through 4th. Tickets at countrythunder.com.
He's not always right, but he's always entertaining. The Nick Wise Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Definitely not always right. I pulled out the receipts of some of my predictions. FSU, I had 9-3. Florida, I had 5-7. Their over-under was only 4.5. Billy Napier, credit to how he ended that season. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Gators can do next year. I think they're going to be pretty good. The schedule next year, though, doesn't get easier. We're going to talk Bucs Commanders here in the segment. Before we get to that, good morning. It is the brand new Nick Wise Show. Thanks for joining us. Last night, the Cotton Bowl, we had Ohio State and Texas. Pretty good game for the most part. It never really felt like Texas could win, unless you're an Ohio State fan. Then obviously you get into a little bit more of a mindset and you probably think, oh my God, we could lose this game, especially when Texas had the ball with the chance to take the lead. But I think Sark shot the Texas Longhorns in the foot. I think that the toss play on the goal line was just stupid. Why are you not running the ball with Arch Manning 4 times on the goal line? Cost his team the game. Let the quarterback run who's mobile. Get the extra blocker. Quit trying to get cute against the number 1 red zone defense in college football. So the reason I want to throw in this quick little segment before we shift into the Buccaneers and Commanders, I think this is great. And this is college football. We're so weird as college football fans. I was telling the story to Pat Donovan the other day. He goes, you college football fans are so weird. I don't understand. And this is what I mean by us college football fans are weird. I come from the North, Big Ten country. My father-in-law is from the South, SEC country. He's a diehard Razorbacks fan. And like any SEC fan, he's an SEC fan. SEC. You guys have this brotherhood. It's weird. I really don't understand it. Like, me growing up in Big Ten country, I want Ohio State to lose so bad. Also didn't care if Penn State lost, which they did. I don't care about the conference so much. I think the brotherhood is a little bit weird. But, I do also want to see the conference, the Big Ten do well. Like Ohio State and Tennessee, I kind of wanted Ohio State to win just to shut up all of the Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina should have been in naysayer. Like those people were getting kind of annoying, right? So once it was just down to Texas, I hit my father-in-law with a text that said, what's up with the SEC? 1 team left. And they're a Big 12 team. Now, don't get me wrong. I will put this disclaimer out there. I watch more SEC football than I do any other conference. I do think it is the most compelling. I will not be a homer and biased against that. It is the most compelling. I would much rather watch Ole Miss in South Carolina than Purdue and in Illinois, right? But I'm usually typically going to root for a Big Ten team over an SEC team unless it's the Gators. I got a little soft spot in my heart for the Gators. But outside of that, I'll typically root for the Big Ten team just because the SEC fans drive me crazy. My father-in-law being one of them. So I texted him, what's up with the SEC? They all died. And he just wrote back, anyone but Texas. And I wrote back, anyone but Ohio State. And I said, wait a minute. Are you now rooting for the Big Ten and I'm now rooting for the SEC? And we just kind of laughed about it. And that's college football fans in a nutshell. We are weird. We are a different breed. And it's awesome. If you're not one of us, join us because it is a fun game. All right. let's talk about the NFL. Buccaneers Sunday night, 8 o'clock, NBC. Don't forget, T-Crest got the Countdown to Kickoff show. That's going to start 6 o'clock Sunday. Getting you ready for the game right here on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. The matchup of the weekend. It is not the Chargers against the Texans. It's not the Steelers against the Ravens. It's not the Broncos against the Bills. It's not the Packers against the Eagles. It's not the Vikings against the Rams. Hell, it's not even the Buccaneers against the Commanders. What do you mean? You just listed every team. What do you mean it's not the matchup of the weekend? No, the matchup of the weekend is Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore. Can we just take a second and say, well done, script writers? All right, for the conspiracy theory people that you believe everything is fake, you got to give kudos if you're one of those people to the script writers. Couldn't have planned this one any better. I'm here for it. They also got Jim Harbaugh against C.J. Stroud. Script writers, you're doing great things. You got Kevin O'Connell going against the team he was the offensive coordinator for, and they won the Super Bowl, the Rams. Good job, script writers. I'm kidding about the script writer thing. I don't think it's fake, but I know a lot of people do, but they still watch. But I'm excited for that Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore matchup because I don't know how many more of these matchups we're going to get. I don't know how many more times we're going to play the Commanders in the future. You know, looking ahead of the schedule, he's locked up with the Commanders for a few more years. I've got the opponents next year. They do not play the Commanders. In 26, they could play the Commanders based on how the standings, if the Bucs were to win the South in 2025 and the Commanders were to win the East in 2025, then they would play each other in 26. But they're really not set to play again until 2027. And at that time, Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans will be in halfway to their AARP cards. So this could be the last one in the playoffs. This is something, this is a matchup we've all enjoyed here in Tampa Bay. Marshawn Lattimore's held his own against Mike Evans. And they're going to go at it again this weekend. And Mike Evans, I think, is coming into this game with some momentum. The emotion he showed at the end of that game, that was one of the coolest. I was trying to explain that to my wife. That is one of those moments, if you're a diehard Bucs, there is a Bucs fan out there that cried at the end of that game. And look, I think a lot of people have cried at the end of games before. You've been so happy. Tears of joy. It's happened. I think that was one of those moments. I didn't cry, but I was like, dang, that was cool. Right? The fact that Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen let Mike go get that $3 million. You think about Jerry Jones in Dallas. They didn't even play Cooper Rush because he was due a $500,000 bonus. Didn't even let him go get it. Jerry Jones asked about that. Oh, I didn't know anything about that. Whatever, man. Nobody believes you. Give the kid the $500,000. Free agents are going to notice those kinds of things. Free agents are going to see what Jerry Jones did to Cooper Rush. They're not going to want to go there. Free agents are going to see what Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen did for Mike Evans. This is a destination, especially for offensive players. And probably defensive players, too. Great place to live. Coach that's going to let you get your money. And that emotion Mike Evans showed, I think that carries over into this game. I think Mike Evans is going to get the best of Lattimore this year. More often than not, Lattimore's had the best of Mike, I would say. If it's a boxing match, I'm going to give one more round to Lattimore. But I think Mike evens up the score this weekend. I think Mike's going to have a big game. He's going to carry that momentum from Sunday against the Saints into this game against Washington. I think Mike's going to have some opportunities in the passing game. But that said, I think the Bucs are going to lean heavy on Bucky Irving. Washington gives up the third most rushing touchdowns. Not to knock my flow here, but I feel a sneeze coming on. All right, I think I saved it. I'm a very professional broadcaster, in case you haven't noticed. It is the Nick Wise Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. Appreciate you hanging out with me this morning, doing whatever you're doing. Maybe you're out running errands. I know I got to do that today. We just moved from St. Pete to Clearwater. And I know the wife's going to have a list of things for me to do, still living in boxes. The one big thing I've noticed, St. Pete, very young. I am definitely the youngest person in Clearwater. I went to Publix for the first time yesterday, not a person under 75 years old. Anyways, back to the football game. I think the Bucs are going to lean heavy on Bucky Irving. The Washington Commanders give up the third most rushing yards in the National Football League. And check this out. They give up even more rushing yards when they're on the road. Guess where they're playing on Sunday? You don't got to guess. You already know. They're at Raymond James Stadium. I think Bucky Irving, if you're, betting player props tomorrow, he's a guy you got to look at. One of my favorite new bets to do is to bet a bunch of players, take the numbers all the way as low as you can make them, and then bet like 14 guys. $10 parlay, probably only going to give you, $80, $90, maybe $100. But if you don't hit it, you're going to hit like 13 out of 14, and it's going to make the day fun. But Bucky Irving is a guy that I think could eclipse 100 yards tomorrow. And I think he's going to need to, because I think that you want to keep Jaden Daniels in the offense off the field. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by controlling the ball on the ground, controlling the game on the ground. And the Bucs are going to be able to do that. Now, the Washington defense is third best against the pass. Now, I talked about it a couple minutes ago. I still think Mike's going to get his. I still think Mike's going to have a successful day. But I do believe because of this, they do lean heavy on the run tomorrow, and they should. It's been their secret weapon all year long. It's why we praise Liam Cohen. This team went from the worst run offense the last 3 years, or it was 2 years. I forget. It's been bad for a minute, right? And now they're one of the best. Now, the Washington defense is third best against the pass. What do you think they are on the road? You always hear the phrase defense travels. And typically it does. But looking at the numbers, the Washington defense doesn't travel that much. They give up the third most rushing yards. They give up even more on the road. Third best against the pass in total defense. But you know what they are on the road? 19th. 19th. It's interesting. So Mike Evans going to get his opportunities. Baker Mayfield's going to have a big day, or going to need to have a big day in order to win this football game. But I think it comes down to who can win on the ground, and I think that's going to be the Buccaneers. I like the Bucs in this game. I really do. I don't see a rookie quarterback coming into Raymond James Stadium. And I know when you say a Todd Bowles defense, it doesn't mean what it used to mean, because the defense has been shaky. But I think Todd Bowles is going to have his guys ready, and I feel good about a Todd Bowles defense against a rookie quarterback. And like I've said all show, Jaden Daniels is going to get his. He's going to have those plays where you're going to be screaming at Todd Bowles, very pissed off. I can't believe you didn't have a spy. How did that happen? Just know that happens to everybody when they face a Jaden Daniels, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen. Running quarterbacks are a bitch to defend. Bucs defense going to have their hands full. But I do think the Bucs win this game. I think it's a field goal game. I do think it comes down to who has the ball last. I think it's going to be a tie game. Bucs are going to have the ball last. Baker's going to get them in field goal range, and I think they walk it off with a field goal. I think it's going to be dramatic. I think you're going to be nervous the whole time, and that's going to suck. I hate those games. I prefer blowouts. Let's see who the experts are picking. How about NFL.com? 4 out of 5 analysts have picked the Bucs. All of them predict a close game. ESPN.com. Man, no love for the Bucs. All 3 of their analysts chose the Commanders. Guess what? Last Sunday night, all of ESPN took the Vikings. They were wrong. That makes me like the Bucs even more. CBSSports.com. Pete Prisco says it's going to be a shootout. He's got Bucky Irving closing it out late for the Buccaneers. USA Today, they've got 6 expert predictions, 3 for the Bucs, 3 for the Commanders. How about Bleacher Report? They've got 8 experts. 5 of the 8 taking the Commanders. I think everybody's riding high on Jaden Daniels, forgetting he's a rookie. Like, just discrediting that the Bucs are at home, been in the NFC playoffs for the last 5 years, only team in the NFC to do so. It's interesting. You got 8 experts, and 5 of them going to take the road team, road underdog with a rookie quarterback. Pro Football Talk, Chris Sims picks the Bucs. Mike Florio agreed with him. They both think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Everybody thinking this is going to be a high-scoring game makes me think this is going to be a low-scoring game. If I had to lean, I don't even know what the line is. I'm going to lean betting the under. Sports Illustrated, Albert Breer, he's going with the Bucs. He is only one of 6 analysts at Sports Illustrated taking the Buccaneers. And Sporting News says the Commanders are the upset of the week. Those are your so-called expert predictions. My prediction, I'm not an expert. I try to be more of an entertainer. I think the Bucs win this game. Like I said, I think they control the game on the ground with Bucky Irving. I think he's going to have one of his best games of the year. I think the Bucs win by a field goal. All right, coming up next, Chris and Casey, they're going to join me for NFL ticket prices right. Chris and Casey are coming up at 11 o'clock. After them, Rock Riley at 1 o'clock, and Aaron Jacobson will take over at 2 p.m. this afternoon.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
As we head into your Saturday afternoon, looks like the clouds are going to stick around. Temperatures are cool in the low to mid 60s, but by the second half of the afternoon, we'll dip down into the upper 50s, mid 50s this evening, and into the mid to upper 40s overnight. Sunday should be a nice day, plenty of sunshine, and temperatures still on the chilly side, mid 60s. By the time the Bucs start, we'll have some clouds rolling in, but no rain, and game time temperatures will be in the 50s. I'm Max Offender 8 meteorologist Eric Stone.
This report is sponsored by Cordell and Cordell.
Cordell and Cordell, a domestic litigation firm, is a partner you can count on. Schedule a consultation by calling 866-323-7529 or visit us at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Start your year off stress-free and sell your home with a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. Hey, it's Aaron Jacobson here, and don't worry about the hassle of constant cleaning and making costly repairs. With the guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate, you can receive an all-cash offer and move when you're ready. There are no showings, no open houses, and no stress. With over 12,500 five-star reviews, you can trust Mark Spain Real Estate to sell your home stress-free and for the most money. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today and start packing.
Since 1985, Fates Electric has proudly served as Tampa's premier electrical contractor. As a veteran-owned and operated company, we bring a commitment to excellence in both commercial and residential projects. Our 24/7 Gold service is Tampa's most recommended electric contractor. Our dedicated electricians prioritize quality workmanship.
Damages? Green Tech Roofing and Solar has you covered.
Know and Go, sponsored by Pfizer.
Experience the Anajar Levine difference.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
All your best Bucks, Bolts, and Rays coverage. The Nick Wise Show on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Oh, welcome in. Look who's here. Chris Mathis, Casey Warner. They're coming up next at 11 o'clock to talk Buccaneers playoff football, I would imagine. And
playoff football. I don't know if we're talking playoff football.
Playoffs.
What are you talking
Chris,
about?
Good morning. How is it to sleep in today?
It was different, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm
the
happy.
guy still texted me at 5:30.
Oh, I know he did.
I said, LFG, what time are we doing the Price is Right game? So here we are.
I figured we'd have some fun with the playoff games, wrap up the show today. I've got in front of me the cheapest ticket into all of the playoff games this week, and I figured you guys could play. Before we get into that, what do you guys got coming up on the show?
Well, of course, we got the Buccaneer playoff run tomorrow against Washington. The doubt from the outside media regarding the Buccaneers once again.
Yeah, I was just talking about the expert picks. A lot of them taking the Commanders, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we'll see what that does for this Buccaneer football team, and we'll also talk a little college football in there as well as we got the national championship game.
We got some national championship comparison going on from past years. So.
I hate this matchup.
And I know you do. I'm not a fan either. I told Chris last night I put a little bit of cheddar on that halftime money line on Texas. It was plus 425. I was feeling great about it and couldn't come through, man.
I had the under, and then I just hate bet,
Yep, me too.
Texas, because I hate Ohio State, so I bet
Same.
Texas. I didn't feel great about it. And I felt good about it until, I thought Texas just toss play on the goal line. Like, why are you not running with Arch Manning 4 times in a row? You had first and goal from the 2. You get the pass interference. You get 4 shots from the 1. And Sark goes with a toss play on second down against the number 1 goal line defense in college football. Just put the kid in there, get the extra blocker, and run.
It sounded like he was being too much of an ego guy last night. Instead of knowing what really works, he was just trying to, this is going to work.
Yeah, like, dude, get out of the tanning booth and prep for that game, and know you're going against the number 1 defense, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't. I'm not Ohio State. It's interesting. The one thing I'll ask you guys, because this is a conversation that it was hard to really have by myself. What do you guys think is harder to win a national championship in, the 4-team playoff or the 12-team playoff?
Man, it's got to be the 12.
Yeah, 12.
So
has to be the 12.
You say that on the surface, but when you really think about it, I still think it's the 4-team playoff, because if you look at Ohio State and Notre Dame maybe, Ohio State definitely not. They're not even in the 4-team playoff. I hate to be like old man, but back in my day, you had to beat your rival. You had to go to your conference championship and win it. And then you got into the playoff. And Ohio State didn't have to do any of those things. You're allowed to now have a couple slip-ups and still get there. Now, I think ultimately once the playoffs start, the 12-team is a little bit more challenging. Ohio State's going to have to win 4 games to win it all. Same with Notre Dame. But these are 2 teams that probably, because Notre Dame maybe, I don't know how much, that Northern Illinois game probably hurts them a little bit more if it's a 4-team playoff.
Has to, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at
they're probably not even there.
I think they might be, because they're one of a few teams with 1 loss. Like Penn State, they were the 4 seed, or 5 seed. They were ranked number 4 going in with 2 losses. But would they be ranked number 4 with the 2 losses after losing in the Big Ten championship? Probably not. But the College Football Playoff Committee this year was like, well, we don't want to penalize people for going to the conference championship. So things were weird. But Ohio State, I think we can say without a doubt, wouldn't have been in the Final 4 because of the loss to Michigan. And, Notre Dame with the loss to Northern Illinois, maybe they still get in because they would have only had 1 loss, which would have been better than most other teams. But, I still think the 4-team a little bit more tough. And then you go back to the BCS championship, I think that's even harder because only 2 teams get
Yes,
in.
I think the BCS was probably a little harder. But I don't know. I'm going with the 12-team over the 4, honestly.
The more we talk about this, the more it makes me feel confident that they did get it right in the first year with the 12-team. I don't think the seedings are exactly the way they should be, but I think it actually ended up a lot better than people thought.
Like at the beginning,
at the beginning it was a bunch of blowouts, but I mean we got some great football the last 2 rounds.
Yeah,
we really did.
When you look at the semifinals over the last few years, they've been typically blowouts, and we had 2 really good games. All right, we're going to play NFL Ticket Price is Right. Today's contestants, Chris Mathis and Casey Warner, they're coming up at 11 o'clock this morning. I am going to give you guys the playoff matchup. You'll guess the cheapest ticket into the game this weekend. We will start with the Chargers going to Houston. That game is at 4:30, CBS. You got CJ Stroud, Jim Harbaugh. They're going to be talking about that narrative a lot today. Cheapest ticket into the building in Houston. We'll start with Chris Mathis.
Let me go with 184. 184.
He says 184. Casey Warner?
At Houston. If it was at LA, I would go that high. But since it's at Houston, I'm going to say like 122.
122. Believe it or not, this is one of the cheapest tickets of the weekend. $69.
What? Giggity. All right.
That's pretty cheap to get into a football game.
That's a really good deal.
Pittsburgh and Baltimore, they are playing tonight on Prime Video. How do you guys feel about that?
I just have an issue only because you got to switch between different services. It's just like everybody else, every other American out there that watches football, but no issue with it being on Prime.
The good news is it is the only game, so you don't really got to switch back and forth. Probably some college basketball on tonight, I would imagine. Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Casey Warner, will go to you. Cheapest ticket to get into M&T Bank Stadium today.
The rivalry game, and it's a playoff edition. This is going to be much higher. I'm going to say 151.
151.
And Pittsburgh trying to snap a 4-game skid. I will go with 160.
Go to 160. Cheapest ticket, $98.
Okay.
I'm going to these games if I'm nearby.
Dude,
well, I can't.
You don't even own a pair of pants. You wouldn't last 10 seconds in Baltimore.
I would freeze.
You'd be freezing your
I
butt
would freeze.
Tomorrow, Denver and Buffalo, they're going to play at 1 o'clock on CBS.
That's a miserable
Park.
game.
Yeah, that's not one I'd have fun sitting at, but I prefer just being at home in general, so none of them sound that fun. Cheapest ticket into the game, Chris Mathis.
Let me go with $88 to get in. $88.
He says $88. Coming down a little bit. There we go.
Yeah.
Someone's catching on.
Yeah, I think this is going to come down to this is at Highmark Stadium, not the nicest stadium. It's going to be cold, big spread. I'm going to go $72.
What did you say, Chris?
88.
Chris went over, but he is closer. $82.
Ooh, nice.
Cheapest ticket to see Denver and Buffalo. One of the more intriguing games of the weekend. I'm excited for this matchup.
Me too.
You don't even know where I'm going.
Well, the next game. Oh, no, I thought you were talking about Denver. I actually am excited for Denver and Buffalo. I think it's going to be a little closer than what people think.
Yeah,
My bad. I thought you
high scoring.
I think Green Bay at Philadelphia on Fox, 4:30, going to be a good game. Tom Brady going to be on the call. Philly is -5. Cheapest ticket into that one, Chris Mathis.
Oh, man, that's going to be higher, I feel like. Give me 135.
135. Casey Warner.
I'm going to go with Sticks, 111.
So 111. Cheapest ticket in, 147. Chris Mathis.
Oh, no,
who's got the lead
right.
here? I
think we're tied.
I think we got
two to
each.
two.
All right, good. There's two left.
Yeah.
Washington. We'll do the Commanders and the Bucks last. Okay. Minnesota at LA, Glendale Stadium. That sounded weird. Minnesota at LA, Glendale Stadium. Cheapest ticket to get into State Farm Stadium in Glendale. We'll go with Chris Mathis.
Okay, I will say, this is weird. It's weird they had to move the game. There's travel issues. I don't think there's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be sold out. I'm going to go cheaper. I'm going to go $72.
I'm going to say $49.
All right, so this one's kind of bizarre because, again, this is according to, ESPN prints out all the prices. It says $129.
Really?
Which is
shocked by that.
I'm a little shocked by that too. $129. We've had a few neutral site games before in the past. I remember the Giants and I think it was the Giants and Bills and Vikings, Giants, Vikings. There's been a couple of mutual games in Detroit where they had to move because of weather, and I think they're always free.
And the Dome too. I think the Dome collapsed right with Minnesota. That might have been why they played
the Minneapolis Metrodome. Yeah.
I don't know if it was because of that or not. It might have been.
Maybe not.
It might have been.
Maybe so.
Because it did collapse a few times. All right, so our game right here in Tampa Bay, Raymond James Stadium. You got the lead, Chris? You're up 3-2?
He is, yeah. After that last one. Yeah.
For all the marbles.
All right,
this one's worth 2 points.
Okay.
Because it's the home team. We'll start with Casey Warner. Cheapest ticket into Ray J tomorrow night.
$92.
It says $92, Chris Mathis.
That's a really good number. Let me go 94.
Chris Mathis went one the wrong way. $70. Cheapest ticket into Ray J. And that is NFL tickets.
Nice game, Casey. We should do a show at 11 o'clock.
Right.
Might be onto something there.
That is going to do it for the Nick Wise Show. First ever show of the Nick Wise Show. I think it went pretty smooth. I didn't burn the building down.
Oh, you sound awesome, man. Love it.
Thank you. Chris and Casey coming up next. They're going to be talking Bucks playoffs until 1 o'clock this afternoon. Then Rock Riley will take over. And then Aaron Jacobson, Lost a Bet, will be coming in to do a Saturday show at 2 o'clock. So we're live and local talking Bucks till 3 o'clock this afternoon. My name is Nick Wise. I am out of here. Chris and Casey coming up next. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Now back. Tampa Bay Sports Radio, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.